Hey friends, I just wanted to make this video because, sorry don't, I look kind of pale because I've just, been sick for a couple days, but, I was watching a video that, was like actually 10-part testimony of, a guy who died and came back, and, God told him to share his testimony, basically, and he pretty much started from the beginning of his life to like the present day and shared like all these stories of like all the things God did in his life and all of, like the spiritual experiences that he had as well. And so I was just really inspired to share what God's done in my life, because just watching that and hearing his stories really built my faith and like almost feel like happier or more joyful because I watched and because I listened to those testimonies. So I just wanted to read this verse here about that. In Revelation, it says, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death." And that's Revelation 12:11. And I I kind of jotted down like things that God's done in my life that were kind of out of the ordinary, things that I like knew were God. And so like things he's done in my life, and then I also wanted to share dreams, and I'm not aware that I've had any visions, but these are just kind of things that I haven't really shared with anyone, or if I have, it's been like one person here or there privately, that I thought it would help, but not like as a common thing. So I'm just looking at my notes, so I'm trying to figure out where to start. But anyways, when I was really little, I just remember like sitting on the deck of our house, outside of our house in the backyard, and I was pretty little. I think I was like 4 or 5, but I don't really remember. I just remember being like really, really little, like 3 or 4, but probably 4 is more accurate. So I was praying and basically just talking to God. Like I would just jabber like I do now, and I would tell him all my dreams, like things that I wanted, to things that I wished for, and ask for them. And the two things, one day I was just like really serious, and I was like, there's two things that I really, really want you to do. And one of them is that I want to be able to sit on your lap, and I want to be able to hear your voice. But mainly I just wanted to hear God's voice audibly. And then the second thing, or third thing, was that I wanted to hold a bird, because every time I saw birds, I thought they were really fascinating, and I just really, really wanted to hold birds, like to feel that they were alive, and like it would just be like amazing to hold a bird in my hands. And so after that, I kind of maybe believed. I think that in that prayer I actually believed more than a lot of prayers I prayed since then, but I didn't really like remember it. I didn't think about it every day, and I kind of definitely after a while forgot about the prayer asking to hear God's voice audibly, because I thought, well, he's not going to do that for me, because in the Bible, when he was audibly speaking to Israel, they got so scared that they asked him to stop. So maybe he has a really good reason for not letting me hear his voice, even though I'm still kind of like really wanting to hear it, and maybe a little bit mad about him not answering that prayer. But anyway, so with the birds thing, it wasn't like right away, but like every once in a while, like these were pretty separated, isolated events, but I would see every once in a while I would see a bird that was like on the ground and it wasn't able to fly. It needed, like, it wasn't able to fly away, so I could get close to it. And usually like a couple times it was birds that were like hurt somehow. I'm not exactly sure what happened to either one of them, but like every time I would like zone in on it and I would be like, is that bird not flying away? So I'd get closer and closer, and this is when I was like pretty little, not even that young, but 7, 8 maybe. I was still really fascinated with birds, and I always still had that desire. So one of them was like in the bush. It was like under the bush, and I guess I heard it back there, and I went over and found it, and I saw it, and I was like so excited. I ran and told my mom. I was just like expecting her to be able to take it and us to be able to like put it in a cage or something, and then we could have it as a pet, or I don't know. But then I kind of found out that wild birds need to stay in the wild, and that you can't really, it's not that easy. So that one, it had a hurt wing or something. I don't remember exactly, but Mom kind of like wrapped it in a towel and tried to help it, but then she just, realized that it was going to heal and it needed to be able to be out in the wild, be able to fly away and find his family. So we let that one go, and then another time I saw one across the street in someone else's yard, and it was like, there were always these like blackbirds, like crows, like small crows or something. And I saw that one, and I was like so sure that it was like one of those moments. Like I knew this was another moment like that. Like God was answering my prayer. I wasn't really thinking about the bird very much, but so I went across the street, and which was a pretty big deal. But I was like zoning in on this bird, and I was like, I'm so gonna hold this bird. And so I went over to see it, and it was like flopping around, and it was a kind of a similar situation, only I don't think I ever saw the wound on this one. I don't think I brought it to Mom, because I kind of knew in my mind, okay, well, I don't really know what birds eat enough I can't take care of it and all of that, so I knew where that would lead, and then I was just like, well, I want to see the bird at least, and maybe, I think I might have picked him up, but I don't know, because Mom told me, like, if you touch a wild animal, that sometimes the mother rejects it, or, like, some stuff like that, so I was just a little bit scared to touch it that time. When I was a lot older, I actually caught a very little bird that was a wren, and it had gotten stuck in our storage building in the back of our house, and, so that was kind of like how God allowed me to have that prayer answered. And so let's see what else I wrote down. As far as hearing God's voice, the first thing that comes to mind is that, like, He has spoken to me, but it's always been silent. It's always been in my heart, in my mind. And sometimes I don't know if this is God or just me talking to myself, but sometimes I've been, like, I would be going around the house and I'd just be, like, just doing chores around the house, and I would be talking to myself, and I'd hear things coming out of my mouth, like, really profound, like, not so much what I was saying, but the way I was saying it was just, it's like, really, a very clear, eloquent way to say, like, a spiritual concept, and I would be, like, preaching, and I'd be like, wow, I don't know, this is, like, really good, and I'd just be basically, like, saying things, like, a lot of it was, like, proverbs, in a sense. It was just a bunch of random, like, a bunch of statements that were, like, true, and I was, like, preaching and convincing myself of truths about God and just stuff like that. So, but apart from that, one of the times I'm really sure that God spoke to me was I had started dating some people online. I was living at my dad's house, and I was, like, really lonely, and I really, really wanted to, I really wanted to be loved. I was really lonely, and I gave up. I felt like God was saying, you're not ready. You're looking for this, but you really just need me. Not in those words, but I just felt like I should, just stop trying to do that, stop frustrating myself. So, I just started to be more honest with myself about the particular people that I was considering and dating. And, I was just like, you know what? This person came so close, this person came so close, but they're just not the person. I just knew instinctively they weren't the one that God intended for me. And so I was like really sad because like God was telling me, no, and I really wanted it to be yes. And I was just really kind of upset. And so I was crying, and I was like crying as if it was the end of the world. I was like crying like I had really come to the end of my rope, that kind of crying. And I was like, I remember crying on my pillow, and I had just cried so much that I could barely, like, I was just wasn't thinking about anything else except that, like, that there was no one out there, that I was probably never gonna get married, and just all those kind of depressing thoughts. And then I heard, so I started to kind of doze off because I was really tired and exhausted from crying so much, and I was laying on my pillow, and I heard this voice, like, I could almost say behind me, but it wasn't like I heard it, but it was very clearly spoken in my spirit, more than like if I had just said something to myself encouraging in my heart. And I wonder, was that God or me? I don't know. But this I was really sure, because it was something outside of what I would have thought of to say to myself. And it was something that I wouldn't have said it this way, I guess. But it was like right behind me, like as if someone was like really close to me, but it was in my spirit. It wasn't audible. And I heard him say, Elizabeth, you don't have to plan out your future. I'm right here. That's all he said. And, I didn't know that I needed, that the real issue was not about, I need to find a guy and get married, or I want to date, or, I didn't get to date this guy, and it wasn't any of that. Those were kind of surface level things. But the root was that I was trying to plan out my future, and because I thought that I had no future. And, I wanted to read this because it means a lot more to me now than it used to. I just didn't want to misquote it, so I wanted to look it up on my eSword here. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. So that's Jeremiah 29:11. And I didn't really believe that, I don't think. I didn't really believe that God, really thought about me enough and, like, had plans for me. Like, I thought I had to plan out my life. I had to really, like, fill my life and my schedule with, like, tons of things at that time in my life. And, I was still kind of frustrated because I would always be like, well, should I do this or that? I don't know. And I just thought it was so important. And I didn't think that relationships were that important. I was just not good at those. And,